All right, guys. I thought I'd take you through the things that I notice in There Are Birds Here, some of the things that I notice in it, and kind of my interpretation. Although, remember, my interpretation is not the only interpretation. And usually, when I discuss this in class, which we haven't done yet, I always something new comes out and something more. Everyone's interpretation builds together to create a stronger interpretation. So, kind of just going through the things that I notice that you're welcome to add to your annotations. But remember, there's always more. So, when I'm going through the poem, the first thing I get is the title. There are birds here. And I know, and I'll kind of click on this so you can see. Should bring it up. No, it's bringing up a different one. Let me try this again. There we go. When I bring it up, I'm kind of made a connection because birds are usually associated with freedom. If you think about like Forrest Gump, Jenny's like free as a bird, whatever. And there's songs about being free as a bird, free bird, for instance. But so birds are associated with freedom and positivity generally. I mean, sometimes there are other ways we can associate birds with, other things we can associate birds with, but that's my first impression. So I kind of just noted that's my first impression. Like seems like a positive thing. Next, it's the thing here is for Detroit. So I made a connection there. I don't know how much you guys know about Detroit. I've never been there, I don't think, unless I've been there when I was too young to remember. But I do know it's a city that's often used when people are, talking about bad things. And I don't know if it's bad or not. Again, I've never been, but people often, I say city, it's often used as shorthand in politics for economic failure. Often you will have political debates in Detroit because it's supposed to represent like a place that needs help, and that's kind of always how it's portrayed. And I'm sure that's not the whole story, and this poem is probably speaking to that, since I've read it before. So it's for Detroit, and I know a little bit about the reputation of Detroit. So then there are birds here, um, and I noticed. Uh, that the here I'm assuming is about Detroit. It's kind of a comment I made. Um, and then, oh, okay. So then I did this. I think this is the next thing to point out here. Well, no, maybe it's this. I went through and I marked all the pronouns, or most of them, they, because I noticed, and I'll click this. Maybe it's here. Somewhere I made a note of this. Let's see. Where did I make this note? Here. Here it is. Yeah, I noticed it on the first day. A style note about point of view. So there's a dichotomy set up between I and they. Dichotomy is like opposition, like two sides in opposition. So it's like there's an I, a speaker, who's speaking in the first person, giving one point of view, and then he is like against a they, the others, and the they see something else. Who are the they here? Who is they? That's a weird question. Um, but that's something I'm wondering as I'm going through here. Who is the they that he's talking about? So there are birds here. So many birds here is what I was trying to say when they said those birds were metaphors for what is trapped between buildings and buildings. So again, there's that dichotomy between the I and they. It's argumentative. I think I said that here. Um, that, yeah, maybe that's like a tone note that it's kind of argumentative, setting it up against each other in opposition. There's this contrast between the I and the they. So I was trying to say that there are birds here when they said the birds are metaphors for what's trapped between buildings and buildings. I'm also noticing that that's almost like he was saying I was trying to say something when he was maybe interrupted, that there are people talking over him. Also, I'm saying him because of Jamal May. I don't know if the speaker's a him or not, but metaphors. I spelled this wrong, but intellectualizing, like it's like the people he's talking about, they are intellectualizing. They're trying to say, "Oh, the birds you're talking about are metaphors," and he's like, "No, there are birds here. There are literally birds here," and the other people are saying the birds are metaphors for something that's trapped, and that's where I get into this purple versus red, that the red I highlighted negative word choice and the purple positive word choice. So we can see positives with birds, confetti, smiling, feathered, sun, light, dance, and then negative with trapped, torn like cotton, a tank can make of a building, war zone, skeleton, tattered, shadow pierced, shadow, ruins, ruined. So I noticed this, and it's the I person is saying the positives, and then the they is saying the negatives. So I said the speaker is saying positive things about the city, but they keep trying to twist it into something negative. Or I said entertainingly tragic. So when we get to the metaphors, like they're turning it into metaphors, or um, they're making references. I could probably make another note here about how torn like cotton. I'll go ahead and make it actually. Is that a reference to slavery? So then is this bringing in race into it? Is maybe the reason that they keep saying negative things about the city, is it because the city is has a large black population, which is true about Detroit, something I know about Detroit. I don't know. So no, the birds are here to root around for bread. The girl's hands tear and toss like confetti. This is this like positive idea of like her feeding birds. No, I don't mean the bread is torn like cotton. That's another thing. This no is kind of is repeated very frequently. I'm going to comment on that. So there's repetition, if I could spell repetition correctly, of no. Um, and so what does that mean? This repetition of no. I mean, I think it continues the idea of an argument. And also it's, whenever something's repetitive, it kind of makes you like think that there's, um, I don't know, it's exhausting, I guess. So that maybe it's the tone is argumentative, but maybe also exasperated, having to repeat this. No, it's not like this. No, it's not like this. So we've torn like cotton. I said like confetti, and no, not the confetti a tank can make of a building. So again, we have this no. I'll just go ahead and highlight the nose here in yellow. Well, that's red. Let's make it yellow. We'll change it. Oh. Not the confetti a tank can make of a building. This part and this one, war zone. First of all, I guess I'll make a comment here. That war zone makes me think about like this is for my own. This is a connection. I follow politics a bit, and war zone is something is something often referenced. I feel like it's often referenced when there people are trying to paint a bad picture of a place and say that there's like violence there. So they'll call, let's say, in the most recent political protest in Portland, right? They'll call it a war zone. Like there's so much destruction going on, and that destruction could be accurate, or it could be what is the word I'm looking for? Like hyperbolic, like people could be exaggerating that for political purposes, um, or people could be exaggerating peace for political purposes. But war zone is a very loaded term, often used to color because it's not a literal war zone, right? There's places where literal war is happening, but war zone is often a term used to color the perception of a place and its people. Personal connection there from what I know about the news and politics and everything. So I wonder that makes me wonder if the they is maybe like media, or is the they someone else. I don't know. So his neighborhood is as tattered and feathered as anything else, as shadow pierced by sun. I feel like there's a turn here, a shift. So we start out with, I'm going to kind of just read it. There are birds here. So many birds here is what I was trying to say when they said those birds were metaphors for what is trapped between buildings and buildings. No, the birds are here to root around for bread. The girl's hands tear and toss like confetti. No, I don't mean the bread is torn like cotton. I said like confetti. And no, not the confetti a tank can make of a building. I mean the confetti a boy can't stop smiling about. And no, his smile isn't much like a skeleton at all. And no, his neighborhood is not like a war zone. I am trying to say, so that kind of, I feel like there's a turn there, that his neighborhood is as tattered and feathered as anything else, as shadow pierced by sun and light parted by shadow dance as anything else. But they won't stop saying how lovely the ruins, how ruined the lovely children must be in that birdless city. So here, I wonder if there's a good way for me to make a box comment. Let's try to do this. I feel like this is a shift, so I'll put some text here. Shift this part of the poem. Where he described, where before he's describing what is in this city. So where before he describes what's in the city, positives, and now he describes the city as a whole. And he includes positives and negatives here. He's not saying that it's perfect. He's saying it's just it's not perfect, but like anything else. It has good and bad, like anything else. I would see this as a plea for understanding. This is a phrase I use a lot. Um, Understanding the city complexly. I spelled that right? Complex. This should be, I don't know. Understanding the city complexly. That looks wrong, but it didn't tell me it's wrong. So whatever, we'll see. Understanding the city complexly, so that there's layers. It's a whole. It's a place that you have to understand complexly. It's not just you know either good or bad. It's just like anything else. It has both of the things to it, where they are trying to paint one picture of it, and he is showing another picture because it is complex. Any You have to imagine things complexly, humans complexly, places complexly. That's a John Green thing. Imagine others complexly. So, um, yeah, I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to point out here besides this negative imagery, this war imagery, um, this repetition of no and no. Oh, I wanted to point out the use of girl and boy. I think that's similar to birds, and like you're trying to paint a picture of maybe innocence as well. Um, I'll go ahead and highlight that. So let's do a different color. Let's do green. No, let's do blue. We haven't used blue yet. So a girl's hands toss like confetti. A boy can't stop smiling about. So I wonder why we use these images of children. And I would say generally we use, let's see if I can do this in the same color to make it match. It's not quite the same color, but whatever. So we evoke children. No, it's not the right color, but that's all right. When trying to show innocence. Shoot, I never spelled that right either. Y'all, I can't spell. Do this. Let's go it down here, move it up. Evoke children, we're trying to show innocence, purity. And I think this is something that I have a connection with as well. This idea from reading different books that I read in my young adult lit class, like the book Monster and some other things. I think when it comes to poverty and when it comes to race, if this torn like cotton is a reference to that, we tend to see children in communities that are disadvantaged as less like children, as less innocent, as more hardened in a sense. And so I think trying to evoke this innocence and purity is another like a fight against this idea of it like torn like cotton or something like that, or confetti of the building, this negative imagery. There's more we can pull out from this poem, but I just kind of wanted to go over that. So for me, what I'm seeing here overall is a message of that this is a complex city with normal amounts or that is a place for good and bad just like anything else. See the city complexly. Don't keep trying to twist everything. And even when you see a girl tossing bread, turn it into a metaphor about how trapped everyone is. When you see these people living their lives and enjoying themselves, take it for what it is, people living their lives and enjoying themselves, not as something pathetic, something to be like, oh, these poor children in this city. The last line here, how lovely the children must be in that birdless city, how ruined the lovely children. Like almost like voyeurism, I guess, like just looking at these children and just watching them be sad and kind of getting some sort of poetic idea from that. Um, when he's saying, no, these are real children living in a real place, having real fun. They're not to be pitied. They are living their life. And just because you, as an outsider looking in on it, see like poverty or a war zone, you're on the outside and you don't know. Like what this is actual just real life, just like your real life. Stop imagining them as an other who is unlike you. Um, so I say all that because as it leads into Their Eyes Are Watching God, we're going to see some similar themes. And we're going to be seeing a life, a description of a life that for many people, because it's poverty, because it's takes place in like the 20s with a black woman. So obviously do not have anything anywhere near like equality for black women at that time, that it must be like sad and tragic. But when we look into a life like this life is also full of beauty and joy, and inability to see that beauty and joy might be a reflection more on the people watching, the they, than on the reality of the situation. So we have to look at the situation and see the beauty and joy, and that's as important as also helping out if there's something bad happening. It's a very complex topic that we will get into more with our book. But I'm interested to see what you all get out of this poem.